students. Today I am going to discuss with you a few important questions from the book Ordeal, and chapter name is We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together. Now let's start. The question number 1: Who was the narrator? What adventures task did he take on? Answer: The narrator was a 37-year-old businessman who, along with his family, set from Plymouth, England, on a round the world voyage like Captain James Cook had done 200 years earlier in a 30-ton wooden hulled boat. Now, question number 2: How did they prepare for this wondrous task? Answer: For 16 years they spent all their leisure time improving their seafaring skills in British waters. They bought a boat wave walker, a 23-meter 30-ton wooden hulled vessel that had been professionally built. They spent months fitting it out and testing it in the roughest weather that they could find. Now, question number 3: How many people were there in the boat? Answer: The 4 of them, the narrator, his wife Mary, son Jonathan, and daughter Susan, sailed for 105,000 kilometers to the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. They took on 2 crewmen with them, an American Larry Weasel and a Swiss Herb Sagler, before setting sail on the southern Indian Ocean. Now, question number 4: What was the first indicator of rough weather? Answer: On their second day out of Cape Town, they encountered strong winds. For the next few weeks, the gales blew continuously. The gales did not worry the narrator, but the sizes of the waves were disturbing. Question number 5: What ordeal awaited them on 2nd January? Answer: After they celebrated Christmas, the weather changed for the worse. On the early morning of 2nd January, the waves became huge. As the ship rose to the top of each wave, they could see the vast sea rolling towards them. The wind seemed to be howling. Now, the next question: What measures did they take to counter this ordeal? Answer: They dropped the storm jib and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stem to slow the boat, and then double lashed everything, went through their life raft drill, attached lifelines, put on oilskins and life jackets. Now, question number 7: What happened on the evening of 2nd January? Answer: On the evening of 2nd January, there was a lull before the storm. As the sky grew dark, they heard a growling roar and saw a massive cloud rising at the rear of the ship. To their dismay, it was a huge wave, almost twice the height of other waves, with a fearsome breaking top. Now, next question: What happened when they tried to ride over the wave? Answer: When they tried to ride over the wave, there was a loud blast that shook the deck. Water gushed over the ship. The narrator's head hit the wheel and he was thrown overboard into the water. He accepted his impending death, and while he was losing consciousness, he felt peaceful. Question number 9: How did the narrator get back to the ship after having been thrown into the sea? Answer: After the narrator felt he was losing consciousness, his head suddenly popped out of the water a few meters away. He saw wave walker nearly overturned. Then a wave threw it upright. He grabbed the guardrails and sailed through the air into wave walker's main boom. The waves tossed him onto the deck like a rag doll. Now, next question. Question number 10. How did they manage to throw out water from the ship? Answer. With the narrator's wife, Mary, at the wheel, the narrator half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin, where he found a hammer, screws, and a canvas, and struggled back on deck. He secured waterproof hatch covers across the wide open holes. With Herb and Larry's assistance, he managed to throw out the water. Question number 11. What were the difficulties that they faced that night? Answer. The night was bitterly cold and they were pumping water out of the ship, steering the ship and working the radio. Moreover, they were getting no replies to their calls for help as they were in a remote corner of the world. Next question. What injuries did Sue sustain? What does it reveal about her? Answer. Sue had bumped her head and there was a big bump above her eyes. She had two black eyes and a deep cut on her arm. She showed remarkable maturity for a 7-year-old when she said that she didn't want to worry them when her father was trying to save all of them. Question number 13. After the water level receded, what was their next concern? What did they decide to do? Answer. Having survived 15 hours since the wave hit, the narrator checked the charts and calculated that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east. One of them was Lie Amsterdam. Knowing wave walker would not hold for much longer, they aimed to reach the island. Question number 14. But our respite was short-lived. Why does the narrator say so? Answer. By 4 January, they ate their first meal in almost 2 days after pumping out most of the water, but their breather was short-lived. Soon after, black clouds gathered and the wind rose to 40 knots. The sea kept getting higher. The weather deteriorated and by dawn on 5 January, the situation turned hopeless again. Question number 15. What did John say that left the narrator speechless? Answer. When the narrator tried to comfort and reassure the children, John said that they were not afraid of dying if all 4 of them could be together. The narrator could find no words to respond, but he left the children's cabin, determined to fight the sea with everything he had. Question number 16. What action did the narrator take after having decided to fight the sea? To protect the weak and starboard side, he decided to heave to with the undamaged port hull, facing the oncoming waves, using an improvised sea anchor of heavy nylon rope and two 22-liter plastic barrels of paraffin. Now question number 17. How did the narrator make his calculation to find out their position on 6th January? Answer. The wave walker rode out the storm and by the morning of 6th January, the narrator worked on wind speeds, changes of course, drift and current in an effort to calculate their position. Now question number 18. What instruction did the narrator give Larry? What did he expect? Answer. At about 2 p.m., the narrator asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees and said that if they were lucky, they would see the island at about 5 p.m. He was not optimistic himself so he went below, climbed on his bunk and slept off. Question number 19. Why did narrator feel that he was not the best captain? What was the surprise in store for him? Answer. When John called him the best daddy in the whole world and the best captain, the narrator was dejected for not being able to locate the island. So he refuted the statement. The truth was that the island was just in front of them. Now question number 20. Why did the narrator feel that it was the most beautiful island? Answer. The narrator saw Amsterdam. It was an unwelcoming piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation, but to them it was the most beautiful island in the world because it held for them the hope of their survival. Now now students, these are long answer type questions. So now I will start. Let's start the first question. The narrator and his wife had longed to sail. What did they do to accomplish their dream? Answer. The narrator and his wife had always dreamt of sailing. They wanted to do a round the world voyage like Captain James Cook had done 200 years earlier. For 16 years, they spent all their leisure time improving their seafaring skills in the British waters. They took a boat, wave walker, that was 23 meter and weighed 30 ton. It had been professionally built and they spent months fitting it out and testing it in the roughest weather that they could find. Finally, in July 1976, the family set out to sail from Plymouth, England. Now, student, question number 2. What were the troubles that they faced on the morning of 2nd January? How did they counter nature's wrath? Answer. When they reached the South Indian Ocean, one of the world's roughest seas, they began to encounter strong winds. Apart from the gales, the size of the waves was alarming. It was as high as the main mast. Things became worse on 2nd January when the waves became huge. The ship rose to the top of each wave and they could see endless waves approaching them. And the screaming of the wind seemed horrifying to them. To slow the boat down, they dropped the storm jib and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stem. Then they double lashed everything, went through their life raft drill, attached lifelines, donned oilskins and life jackets. Now question number 3. The first indication of impending disaster came at about 6 p.m. What was the warning? What was the disaster that followed? Answer. The first warning of the approaching disaster was the threatening stillness. The wind dropped and the sky grew dark. Then with a roar, an enormous cloud seemed to come after the ship. It turned out to be a vertical wave, almost twice the height of the other waves, and had fearsome breaking crests. When they tried to move over it, a monstrous explosion shook the deck. Water broke over the ship, and the narrator's head hit against the wheel, and he was thrown into the sea. The narrator accepted his impending death and felt he was losing consciousness, but soon he was tossed back into the ship like a rag doll. Now, question number 4. How did they deal with the water that had gushed into the ship? Answer. As Mary took control of the wheel, the narrator made his way toward the hatch. Larry and Herb were pumping out water frantically. He saw broken timbers hanging, the starboard side bulged inwards, clothes, crockery, charts, tin, and toys sloshed about in deep water. So he struggled into the children's cabin, found a hammer, screws, and canvas, and labored back on deck. He managed to stretch the canvas and secured waterproof hatch covers across the gaping hole. Some water continued to steam below, but most of it was now being deflected over the side. The problems cropped up when the hand pumps started to block up, with the fragments floating around the cabins and the electric pump short circuited. The water level rose ominously. On the deck, he missed the two spare hand pumps, four-stage sail, jib, dinghies, and the main anchor, which were pitched overboard. He found another electric pumps and connected to an out pipe, and this worked. Now, question number 5. Why were they desperate to look for an island? How did they manage? Answer. After having survived for 15 hours since the wave hit, they knew that wave walker could not hold together long enough for them to reach Australia. The narrator checked the charts and calculated that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east. One of them, like Amsterdam, was a French scientific base, but the waves had put the auxiliary engine out of action. To make matters worse, the weather continued to worsen. The wind finally eased and the ship rode out the storm by the morning of 6 January. The narrator deliberated on wind speeds, changes of course, drift, and current in an effort to calculate their position. What he could determine was that they were somewhere in 150,000 kilometers of ocean looking for a 65-kilometer wide island. About 2 p.m., he asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. He expected to see the island at about 5 p.m. and eventually reached it by 6 p.m. Now, question number 6. The children braved the situation more maturely than their parents, than their years discuss. Answer. The children certainly braved the situation more maturely than their years. So had. तो स्टूडेंट, इसका मतलब यहाँ पे ईयर्स का मतलब है कि जितनी उनकी उम्र नहीं थी उससे ज़्यादा उनके अंदर क्रेज़ था. ठीक है ना, कि उन्होंने जो है कि एक छोटे बच्चे में हम इतनी जो है हम इतना उससे इतना बहादुर नहीं मानते जितना कि इस स्टोरी में दिखाया गया है कि उनके अंदर इतनी इंटेलिजेंस थी. ठीक है ना, तो इसको आप समझ रहे होंगे कि इतनी कम उम्र में भी वो बच्चे इतने बहादुर थे. तो इसके बारे में बताना है आपको. डिस्कस. Answer. The children certainly braved the situation more maturely than their years. Sue had her head hit and swollen worryingly. She had two huge black eyes and a deep cut on her arm. She did not make much of her injuries because she did not want to worry her father when he was trying to save them. John, the narrator's 6-year-old son, assured him that they were not afraid of dying if the family could be all together. What Sue's head injury worsened with her blackened eyes narrowed to slits. She held on to her spirit and gave the narrator a card with drawn caricatures of Mary and him with the words, "Here are some funny people. Did they make you laugh?" I laughed a lot as well. The underlying message of love and positive hope overwhelmed the narrator. He was touched with the tough thoughtfulness of a 7-year-old girl who did not want her parents to worry about who did not want her parents to worry about a head injury, and that of the boy who was not afraid to die. Okay student, thank you very much for watching and listening this video. And if you have any kind of problem, so you can send me message through WhatsApp. You can make a call to me, and you can also write in the comment box. Definitely sooner or later I will give the answers, or you can directly call me, make a call to me. I can also clear your doubts through the phone calls, through clarifying your doubts. So I hope so you have all understood it, because this chapter is already being discussed with you, and I am going to discuss this chapter in the online live class. So I hope so all of you will you must have enjoyed this story, and thank you very much for listening and watching.